Do you ever just need a good edging? Of your lawn, I mean. Will Kucera at Sharper Edges Lawn Edging and Lawn Aeration has you covered. So if you want to increase your curb appeal without breaking the bank or your back, give Will a call at 402-750-8167 or message him over on Facebook at Sharper Edges Lawn Edging and Lawn Aeration to get a better edging than Stormy Daniels would ever provide. We would like to send our prayers and thoughts to everyone affected by the recent floods in the Midwest. Events such as this devastate an area. Always remember that this too shall pass. Come together as a community, help thy neighbor, and never forget how this nation was built. One brick at a time. My next guest has been instrumental in advising hundreds of Northeast Nebraska small businesses. Loren, thanks for making time to be here today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. My pleasure.
No problem. I'm Zach Miller with my co-host Vance Kole.
Nice to meet you, Loren.
Nice to meet you.
And we are touching base with Loren Kucera today. Loren, are you originally from Northeast Nebraska area?
Yep, native of Clarkson, Nebraska. Born and bred and still live there.
Still live in Clarkson?
Mm-hmm.
How far is that to Wayne?
To Wayne, it's about 45 minutes, 45 miles.
Because you still drive in for work and everything, right?
Well, we're here to Norfolk or Columbus. Yeah, so it's kind of a nice central location.
Good. So you went to Clarkson High then?
Yes.
How was that for you?
Good.
Good
Experience.
Any sports?
Just football. If you wanted to play football, you had to go out for track in the fall, but I didn't my senior year. I said, no.
That's kind of how I went too. They usually make you play another sport.
Yeah.
Keep you in condition.
Yep.
Any other activities or anything in high school other than
band?
What'd
choir.
you play?
I started with the French horn, and I graduated to the trombone, which I had a real problem with. Then I finished up with baritone.
Baritone. That's a nice little. Yeah. I played saxophone, so
okay.
Right in the same kind of realm.
Yeah.
That's good. Other than that, we like to get all of our guests' perspective on their college decision process.
Okay.
Could you walk us through that a little bit? Were your parents involved in helping that decision? Did you?
They supported me when I graduated from Clarkson High. Way back when, I went to Doane College in Crete, and I kind of was in at that time they had what they called a 3+2 program with Duke University or Colorado State University. I wanted to be a forest ranger. And so I went there the first year and started my second year. And in the fall, we were farmers. And during corn harvest, my father fell off a ladder and broke his leg.
Oh, no.
So I dropped out to come back home to help with the harvest because we were, by standards of those days, we were fairly large farmers. Today, it'd probably be a hobby farmer. But so anyway, fully intended to go back in January and never did. And farmed and met my wife and got married and had a family and farmed for quite a few years.
Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that.
Yep. 1988. Anybody that was around in the 80s know the ag sector was pretty bad.
It was pretty bad. There was some problems.
And so
high interest.
Yeah, high interest, low commodity prices. And plus I got pneumonia one summer.
Oh, no.
And I ended up in Omaha Hospital for about 10 days. And so that was probably 86, 87. 88, my wife and I decided it was time to try something else. So I went back to Northeast Community College and just kind of dipped my toe in academia. And
so how long, what was the gap there in amount of years?
Well,
going back to college.
Well, I left college in the fall of '69.
Oh, so that's quite a ways.
Went back in '88.
Oh, geez.
That's a whole elementary school, basically,
right? Yeah.
Or a whole school system.
Yep.
Wow.
And so I went to
you
Northeast.
Farmed during that time?
I'm sorry.
You farmed that whole time?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. My dad and then my uncle. And so, yeah, like I said, we were, by standards of that time, we were fairly large farmers.
Right.
And So I went to Northeast Community College, took a summer class, and I thought, well, okay. It was amazing how much smarter I got between being 20 years old and 38,
Right.
And so I got my associate's degree from Northeast, and then I transferred to Wayne State and got my bachelor's degree in 92, I believe, if I recall. And I worked at Bluebird Nursery in Clarkson for a while as co-op there, and then this position became available at Wayne State, the one I currently have. And I talked to some people on campus, and they encouraged me to apply. And, the deal was I had to get an MBA, which I did from the University of South Dakota.
Yep.
And the rest is history.
And it was all in business administration, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. All of it.
That's pretty cool. And we'll get into the Wayne State stuff.
Sure.
And kind of talk about that process. It's kind of that's a unique story, though.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of the 20 years of.
So there's still a chance for me.
Yeah, there is still a chance.
I like to say
Chance
I'm on
for
the
both of us.
20-year, 2-year plan,
Well, the
One of
good
these days
news-
I'll get that 2-year degree.
The good news is your bachelor undergraduate credits are good forever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So if anytime I go back, which there's not a lot of them, there's a lot of partying in those years.
Oh,
but
I understand. I
So
understand.
you can carry over your 6 credits.
I can yeah. I'm probably more than that. But
yeah.
I always did, the 10 years was over. It's been so long. I've been out of school for 20 years, but for the first 8 years, I hadn't been in school for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm on that 10-year, 2-year plan.
But he is right, though. The older we've gotten, the smarter we've probably gotten, the more mature we've gotten.
Yeah.
And I would want to change. Well, and
Yeah.
and what I would go into is so much different now.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I just, even in the short time I was in school,
Yeah.
what I went into for changed in just 3 years.
Yeah.
But
Well, when I was going to Northeast, I intended to be a history teacher,
Oh.
but I got, I don't know if Larry Godel, he was an instructor there, and
Yep.
he and I got to be friends. And I was talking to him, and he said, history teachers are a dime a dozen
Yeah.
in high school. So he encouraged me to look at a different career, different.
which I look at it as we're sorely lacking in good history teachers
Yeah.
right now because we're not even teaching real history anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I would almost say one in my generation or me and maybe my brothers kind of everything has really changed since then of what they're really teaching. Like they're not teaching real history anymore.
Yeah.
Or they're leaving a lot of it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Good history teachers, but it is a lot of. Usually, it's a lot of gym teacher or
Yeah.
coaches take history.
That's said exactly.
Yeah.
The coaches are history teachers.
Right, history or
Which I
civics
did really well with mine. I thought I thought that was a good position for them. What we had over
Yeah.
our history teachers in
Oh,
Battle
yeah.
Creek were really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I mean, the ones I had in high school piqued my interest in history.
Me too. Yeah,
So, yeah.
definitely. So you've served on many boards and committees, such as the Board of Directors of Northeast Nebraska Economic Development District. You were a past president there. Board of Directors of Northeast Economic Development Inc., past president. Board of Directors of the Nebraska Economic Development Corporation.
Yep.
The Nebraska Economic Developers Association Education Committee, and a member and treasurer of the Partnership of Rural Nebraska. How was all of that for you? That seems like a lot of stuff.
Well,
Or do you want to go piece but one by one?
well, the ones I'm active now in are the NED, as I call it, NED,
Which
the
is
Nebraska Economic Development Corporation, and Education Committee for the Nebraska Economic Developers Association. By the way, we had our conference here 10 days ago. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, really. We had a record registration for it here. So
That's good.
That speaks a lot for Norfolk.
That's good. Were these positions something that you sought out, or were you asked to be on these boards?
I was asked to be on the boards. Yep.
By people at Wayne State or just by people in the community?
People within those respective organizations.
Were you in those organizations before joining the boards and stuff like that? Like, were you members of these organizations before you ever got on boards?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. I had a working relationship with NED, working relationship with them. I know when they originally formed way back when I was not on the board, but I was on the original loan committees for that organization. So,
So So do a lot of these organizations kind of tie into what you do then?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So that makes
Exactly.
sense.
Economic development.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot. That's a lot going on.
Well, I'm also not associated with this, but I'm on the Clarkson Housing Authority board
Oh,
in
so
Clarkson.
you got a lot going on.
So, yeah.
Has there been other boards or organizations you've been involved in other than economic stuff and the Clarkson one you talked about?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything.
Okay.
I always felt that organizations you listed directly tie into what I do.
Have you ever
You
thought
had
about
something to offer.
Yeah, exactly.
You ever thought about doing any civic duties, city council or mayor?
I ran for school board in Clarkson many years ago. And what was interesting, there were 6 of us running. There were 3 city people and 3 farmers. And the city people got elected and the farmers didn't. And so I think it was because of taxes and stuff. That was my only dip into politics.
Gotcha.
No, thank you.
I just think like your background would be a good, especially like a city council type seat.
Yeah.
Your background and what you have would be a good spot. I'm surprised you've never been asked.
I would have probably said no.
Yeah, I don't blame you nowadays. So being on the boards or committees takes a big a time commitment. How are you able to balance your work and performing your duty on these boards?
Serving on the boards really does not take that much time. The 2 that are based here in Norfolk, we meet once a month on the same night. The Nebraska Economic Development Corporation, we meet quarterly in Lincoln. And the Education Committee for NEDA, just having our conference now, we're probably not going to meet again until fall when we start planning for the next one.
Okay.
So it really doesn't cut into a lot of time.
That's good, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So prior to your current position, you mentioned this already, you were in the wholesale division at Bluebird Nursery.
Right.
Could you explain kind of what your role was there?
I was they really didn't have a marketing department, but that's what I did. That's what my concentration was as an undergraduate, was in marketing. And so I worked in their marketing department and also worked in the shipping department. So that was kind of it. I helped them put together some advertising and things like that.
Were they still around?
Oh, definitely.
Where was that located at?
Clarkson.
Oh, it was in Clarkson. Okay.
Yep. At that time, back when I worked back then, they had 80, 85 full-time and probably 15 part-time.
Oh, okay.
They're huge.
I just have never heard of it. Have you?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You said it was a co-op?
I'm sorry?
Co-op, you said?
No, Bluebird Nursery.
Nursery, okay.
Perennial plants.
Okay.
They ship all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what took you from there to becoming the center director at the Nebraska Business Development Center?
Well, I saw the advertisement for the position. I drove up to Wayne one day. I kind of sort of knew the dean, Dr. Von Benson, and I sought his counsel, I guess. And I asked him if I should apply, and he encouraged me to do that. And so I did apply. When I was a senior at Wayne State, I entered Duncan Aviation, had a business plan competition down in Lincoln at the university. And I wrote a business plan for Bluebird Nursery at that time, which tied in with like marketing. And I actually won. I won that. And so consequently, the faculty members there at Wayne State kind of remembered me a little bit. And but Dr. Benson encouraged me to apply for it, and I did. The only thing I had a promise was I was going to get my master's degree.
That's
And
good.
did they help out with that? Or the job was contingent on that?
No, not really. It was just kind of a promise deal. I did started in my first day on the job was April Fool's Day in 1994, and I completed my MBA in '99.
Okay.
So if it was April Fool's Day, have you really had the job this whole time, or they just
Yeah.
they still pulling your leg?
big fake.
What do you mean? I'm not getting paid this month.
So you went right into being the center director.
Yep.
Okay. I was wondering if there was any kind of, if you kind of moved your way up, or that's kind of a
No, I went right
straight
into it.
shot into it. That's really good.
Dr. Benson was really wise at that time when I started. You know, probably 2 weeks after I started, my ego was kind of getting puffed up. And I says, when are we going to have a press release? He says, just look in the old files, get acquainted. And I think it was 2 months later, they had the press release, and bang, you know, there it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I owed him a lot for his wise counsel on that.
That's good. It's kind of a big position to kind of just step right into.
Yeah, there's a lot involved in that.
Yeah.
It kind of evolved over the years as I kind of developed it at that point. I'm part-time. I think I told you last
Yep.
time, and they do have a full-time person hired, you know, to replace me. And so I'm just on board to kind of mentor him, work with clients. My specialty is loan packaging, and then I'm supposed to work with the other centers across the state also.
So winning that business plan deal in Duncan is a pretty big deal.
At that time, it was.
Yeah. How many entries were there?
I don't recall. I remember the prize was $3,000.
Well,
Back then, that's quite a bit.
Back
yeah.
then, that was a good chunk of money.
right.
Even
Right.
right now, it's still a chunk of
Oh
money.
yeah, but comparatively
Yeah.
though, yeah,
And that's something you dealt with quite a bit in your position,
Yep.
right? Was business plan. Obviously, you specialized in loan packaging, but
yeah.
that's all a part of a business plan, right?
Well, if bankers, lenders, they want a business plan, you know, and
Yep.
I'd say most of my business plans that I don't write the business plans for clients, but I give them the resources to do it, and I critique it. You know, if they keep me in the loop, I critique it as they develop it,
Yeah.
write it.
So specializing in loan packaging, could you kind of explain to the listeners what your position all entails, including the loan packaging or anything else that you have kind of done over the years in this position?
I would guess 75% of my clients that are full-time clients involve loan packaging in one form or another. And typically what happens is I've developed a really good relationship with lenders in Northeast Nebraska. And if they have somebody come in and they want to start a business or expand a business or whatever, but, you know, the bank, you know, there's some what ifs there, you know, the bank probably wants to, well, number one, they want a business plan, but then they want a financial package also put together. And I've been fortunate in my position here with the Northeast Nebraska Economic Development District. They have a business loan program, which works really, really well. And so I've always said that loan packaging is more of a art than a science, because the communities around Northeast Nebraska, not all of them, but some of them have different options for financing, like TIF or LB 840. All of those, a lot of the communities don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's a big help too. And so I just work with the client to develop a business plan and projections and things like that. And I try and make it to be their numbers, not my numbers, as I develop the cash flow projections with it. So,
So you really kind of try to teach them to do this in the future, where it's
Yes.
like
yes, yep.
you don't do it for them. You're kind
Yeah,
of just
because-
helping them along the way.
My argument with them is I'm not going to be sitting across the table from your banker
Right.
trying to explain this,
Right.
you know.
So
What-
the Nebraska Business Development Center, that is basically just for, is that something that anybody looking to start a job or start a business or whatever kind of
Start a
goes through
business.
you guys, and you guys help get somebody off the ground and running?
Yep.
Is
Yep.
that what that is?
Yep.
Okay.
We work with startups, existing businesses. A lot of people have kind of the misconception that we only work with startups, which is not true. I'd say half of my clients are existing business. They need refinancing, expansion. Maybe they're buying a competitor or whatever. So kind of the wide gamut of things.
And I'm I'm backtracking here a little bit because this is new to me a little bit, but how is it tied into Wayne State? Like this is Wayne State's deal?
Okay, that's a good question. There's a program that across the United States, it's the Small Business Development Centers. There's 950 centers across the United States in Puerto Rico and Guam. Watch me, I go into my spiel now.
That's fine.
But
That's kind of what I want.
That's what we need, yeah.
For people that don't know, like
That's
me,
what we need.
the dummies like me. So
the Leeds, what we call it, the Leeds Center, is based at University of Nebraska at Omaha. And it's actually, it started in 1977. There was a pilot program in 1977, 78, and I believe 79. Nebraska was one of 7 states that got the funding, and that the funding comes from the United States Small Business Administration. Also, the partner institutions also contribute to our budgets. But the program started then, and so it just developed over the years. And then if you go to all the other states, it's the Small Business Development Centers. Here in Nebraska, we're kind of unique. We were grandfathered in with the Nebraska Business Development Center. Under the end, I'm going to start saying NBDC now.
that's fine. That's fine with me.
Under the NBDC program based at UNO, there's actually 4 different, what I call pods or silos. There's the Small Business Development Center, which is what I work with. There's Apex, formerly PTAC. They help businesses do business with the federal government. There's Innovation and Technology. There's several people working that at UNO. I like to use the example, if you developed a new best mousetrap, but you need to get prototypes and funding, they'll work with you. Obviously, that's a bad example, but that's probably the simplest way to explain it. And there is grant money out there. If somebody's got an idea, there is actual grant money out there for them to develop that idea. And then there's what they call SourceLink Nebraska. And there's a website. If you just Google SourceLink Nebraska, you'll go to it. And it's a whole bunch of different resources that are available out there across the state for people that want to start a business or have some business. I don't know if I'm answered your question.
No, that's a lot better than I was kind of flying in the wind here. Not really.
Yeah.
I kind of knew, like I've heard of it and everything. I was
Yeah.
just kind of trying to get a little bit more information out there for
Yeah.
somebody that's looking into it.
Yeah.
So basically anybody that is looking for a little guidance, whether you're a new business or inventor, entrepreneur, you guys will put you in the right put people in the right
Point them
direction.
in the right direction.
Yeah, for somebody who may be able to invent something but doesn't know anything about the business side.
Yeah.
It's where you guys kind of step in, right?
Yeah. Or even develop prototypes,
Yeah.
for.
Do you handle the whole state then, or is there multiple of you?
There's, my equals, a Small Business Development Center in Omaha, Lincoln, Kearney, North Platte, Scottsbluff, Chadron State College.
So you kind of have an area that you...
Northeast and North Central Nebraska.
Okay.
Yep.
That's really cool. And you've been doing it for how long? You must love what you do.
I like what I do. I tell people I do the same thing every day, but yet every client's different.
Yeah.
Every client's different. And their situations are different.
Right. Is there a certain criteria for a person or business to qualify for your services, or can anybody kind of just reach out and...
They have to be a small for-profit business. 99.9% of the business in Nebraska qualify for our assistance. The companies that would be like Nucor or, large corporations.
So, but it's free to reach out to you.
Most of our services are free. There's some services there is a fee.
But initially, if they're going to just reaching out, and you're gonna give them the best plan or whatever.
Right.
If it's going to cost them for whatever they're asking for,
right.
That's whatever.
Right.
Okay. So people not to be afraid to reach out and even if it's just a question, you guys don't turn that away.
No.
This is the wrong. We're the wrong people, but I'll try to find somebody for you. Basically, perfect.
Well, that was one of the. I was fortunate. 3 of the faculty members when I started were my predecessors. Actually, 2 of them are still there. And so they were a great, and I remember one of them told me, he says, if somebody calls you and you don't know the answer, he says, don't just push them off.
Yeah.
He said, find the right person they can talk to and call them back.
I like that a lot. We always like when people, or dislike when people push people away or try to give
or
them
lie, or
lie.
bullshit, because I can smell bullshit on people. It's all you got to do is just say, hey, I don't know right now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to respect that. Even if you don't know the answer, and I'm not going to think you're an idiot, at least you're going to say, hey, I don't know, but I'll find it for you.
Right.
And that goes a lot farther with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this guy or girl's actually going to, they're going to follow through, figure it out for me. So
how do you handle some of the experiences if they are expecting you to maybe do more, like more of the writing of the business plan or more things? How do you kind of handle that situation?
I just tell them, I go back to what I said earlier. I says, I'm not going to be the one presenting the business plan to your lender or whoever you want to present it to. I says, you need to write it yourself. And I tell them, I says, it doesn't have to be a 40-page document either. 6, 10, 12 pages, pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the times they get really freaked out about doing the budget, the cash flow projections. I'll do that with their input, So I'll just tell them I won't do it. I used to do it way back when.
Yeah.
But then I got smart. I thought, I'm really not helping the client.
they're not learning anything.
Yeah, they're not learning anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're there to help them and guide them through it, then you create better people learning more about it. So.
Right.
Have you had any nightmare situations where things went really bad that you can maybe discuss without naming any names or anything?
You mean when I screwed up?
Either when you screwed up or the person you were trying to help maybe was either lying or disingenuous or something?
There was one client I was working with. He found out later he was lying to me. Actually, that happened a couple of times. They were lying to me. One of the SBA has relaxed their standards a little bit, but there was a time where if you ever had a felony, you weren't automatically disqualified.
But you had to go through some
disclose
hoops.
it.
Yeah.
You had to disclose it. You couldn't be on probation. You weren't eligible. Or incarcerated. You weren't eligible, obviously. They've kind of changed those. Still, if you're incarcerated, you're not good. But anyway, those particular situations, they had created felony. They had felonies on their record. And I happened to find out through other means. And I remember one of them in particular, I just confronted him about it because I think he was still on probation. And I confronted him about it, and he finally admitted it. And I said, look, I says, we spent all this time together on this. I says, you're not eligible for anything because the bank wanted to do it, but they wanted an SBA guarantee.
Right.
Wasn't eligible. So those are probably the worst situations where I don't mind trying to help somebody. And if the bank denies it, okay, we gave it a shot. But I hate to waste time on working on a project.
Don't let me get blindsided by it.
Exactly.
Because it was going to come out either way.
Yep.
Right? Because once the SBA process started, they were going to find it instantly.
Yep. Well, and I told it one particular person too. I says, you checkmarked on the application no. I says you created a felony by lying on that document. So
that's crazy.
Those are probably the worst. I've seen some situations happen with clients that I helped start that the banks weren't necessarily cooperative once they opened up, and businesses really, really struggled after that. So
the agreement was kind of the bank kind of did not a dirty thing, but they didn't do what they maybe said on their side. They didn't do what
they said they were going to do. And I know one particular client, he ended up declaring bankruptcy about 3 years later. So,
that's too bad.
Yeah.
I look at in your position. Sorry.
You're good.
Is it hard going through? I would imagine in your time, as long as you've been involved in it, you've seen successes and you've seen failures.
Yeah.
Are the failures hard, or do you just?
You mean when the business
it just fails or
Folds.
whatever, folds, or does it make, because you create a relationship with some of these
Yep.
people. I mean, it becomes, it's business, but it is still a little personal.
It is a little
Is
personal.
that tougher? I mean, or do you like help? Does the successes help get you through those?
The successes help get me through that. And sometimes too, and I know one business I worked with substantially, went through a closing process. It just, things had been in business for a number of years, but the market changed and the business owner just decided, just it's time to pull the plug and maybe do something different, Well, that person had a good run at it for a number of years.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's not as hard to watch as something.
no. Well, the biggest one was back in 9/11. That was the biggest one. I mean, I know one business. Their sales were heavily dependent upon disposable income, and I remember guy told me, he says I had my wife call my business once a day to make sure the phones were still working because they stopped ringing.
Wow.
And he had to eventually declare bankruptcy also. So he had a good point though. He said, how do you ever put in a business plan, 2 planes slamming into the Twin Towers?
Right.
One, do you figure
never
that
know.
into business plan?
Same
No.
thing probably happened in 08. Same thing probably happened during 2020. Did you see a lot of that through COVID?
There was a lot of business owners really pivoted at that time, and they really did I don't want to say very well. I know restaurants, once they got adjusted, I think they were doing just as good or better almost with takeout, because number one, their
Overhead
cost
goes down.
Yeah.
Overhead goes way down.
Yep. And so anyway, they did well. That was the year my wife passed away, and so I really didn't
Sorry to hear
get
that.
involved in the PPP and the idle loans at that time. So I kind of stayed away from that at that point. But that was pretty significant.
Did your guys' organization help a lot with those?
Yes, I didn't, but
Right.
but yes, the organization did quite a bit with the not so much the PPP, but with the idle loans.
What's
Okay.
that? Which one was that one?
Idle,
Yeah.
economic injury disaster loans.
Okay.
Yeah, and the PPP was actually
That's the one
free
that
money.
everybody really knows about is the PPP.
Yeah, that was free money for the businesses. Idle loans that had to be paid back, but 30 years at 3%.
Gee.
That's not a bad deal.
That was a very interesting time. I didn't know that I didn't even think that you guys would have helped with some of those.
Mm-hmm.
That's I'm glad we kind of pivoted to that topic.
That PPP loans really helped a lot of businesses. A lot.
That was geared towards just paying employees.
Pretty much payroll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get that was definitely needed for some businesses.
Yeah.
But as we said, some businesses took the PPP loans and were still profiting pretty well.
Yep.
So that's another one of those things, I don't know.
Yep.
There's a good and a bad to each side of a coin, I guess.
Well, on a per capita basis, Nebraska was number 1 in PPP loans.
Really?
Yep. For that particular program.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's kind of an interesting stat. I was going to ask another question with some of the stuff we were talking about, but
I interrupted it.
no, you're good. But with the failures, we kind of talked through those. And I guess kind of a question that he had asked kind of ties in a little bit here. The ones that maybe only lasted a year to a year and a half. Has that ever happened where it's like almost an instant failure? Is that sad to see, or is that something that happens quite a bit?
I don't recall. Well, I remember one business. They were probably a year into it. And I don't think it was the fact that it wasn't financially successful. I think the owners didn't understand their time commitment to it.
It was a mental thing.
Yeah, and they literally took the keys and went to the banker and put the keys on the banker's desk and says, "We're done."
Really?
Yeah, and I don't think that was a year and a half
Holy cow.
into it.
People don't understand what it means to be an entrepreneur, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to basically ask that is like, do you is part of your guys's organization, is part of it kind of a business counselor too? Do people come say, I don't know if we can do you ever have to talk people off the ledge every once in a while? But like, this is tough. You just it'll work. We just got to get through this.
I think, you just got to work with them a little bit and kind of keep them focused and
kind of lean on you a little bit.
Some things too. I shouldn't say a lot, but some business owners don't understand the financials, particularly their P&L statement. And I always tell people your P&L statement is like when you go to the doctor and you're not feeling well. What does your doctor do? Takes your temperature, takes your blood, maybe takes your urine or whatever. Well, that's what the financials are for. They can tell you what's doing good. It doesn't do good if you only go by your tax return, at the end of the year.
Right.
And so.
Yeah, on the other side of that coin too, with businesses, like maybe talking somebody off a ledge, but also the ones that maybe come in super eager. Do you ever have to knock their ego down a little bit?
I tell them to take your rose-colored glasses off here and just, get smart. I had a client walk into it was a cold call, walked into my office on campus, and he says, I want to start a restaurant. Well, restaurants are probably the toughest one.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, have you owned a restaurant before? He says, no. Have you managed a restaurant before? No. Tell me, have you ever worked in a restaurant before? He says, no. I says, why do you want to open a restaurant? He says, because I want to make a lot of money. I tell that to restaurant owners and they get a big laugh out of
I'm
that,
sure. I'm sure they do.
So I get people like that too, So I try and take their rose-colored glasses off too. And I think a lot of them don't understand the hours involved.
Oh yeah.
In a business,
the hours of unpaid time.
Yeah.
Unpaid time.
Yep. And I tell, people, they'll start a business and maybe they're in a situation. I'll ask them, well, what do you want to get paid? Well, I don't need to take any money home. I says, you tell me what you'd make at McDonald's. I says, if you can go to McDonald's and make that money, you should be able to pay yourself that, or at least part of that.
Right.
Don't work for free.
Right. Exactly. That's true for sure. So on the other side of this, let's talk about some success stories. So you've helped so many small businesses over the years. Do you have any favorite stories you could tell us? Maybe 2 or 3?
I've got one. It's in Wayne, Nebraska, and I can say the name for it. It's Sand Creek Post and Beam. They've rebranded themselves as Timberline. That's one of my stars, I call it.
It's cool that you call it that.
I've kind of watched it grow. From as small as it was to it got big.
I remember the first time I went with the owners, it was probably in a room this size, their office. And I know a couple of weeks ago, we just celebrated their 20th anniversary.
That's awesome.
In business. And so they've done phenomenally well. They've got in Wayne, they've got a plant in near San Antonio, Texas. They've got 2 sawmills in Minnesota. They just sell those barns all over the country.
So they really hit the ground running then.
Oh yeah, they hit the ground running. Did phenomenally well. I know they've got a whole bunch of employees between Wayne and Texas, a whole bunch. It was Lynn and Jewel were the ones that started it, Lynn Dickinson and Jewel Gaylor. And they've become actually great friends of mine.
That's great to hear.
Over the years. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they did a fantastic job. I complimented them because I don't often see a situation where it's a husband and spouses, husband and wife working together in a business, but those two, they balanced themselves out. So they did just a phenomenal job with it. And
they're still married?
Yes. Yes.
Now, you don't see it too often, a husband and wife and still going through everything.
I know. My wife always told me too. She said, we ought to start a business. No, I don't think so.
That is one thing you just brought up. What have you ever thought about ever wanting? I mean,
People have asked me, he says, Loren, you've helped so many people start a business. Why don't you start a business? I said, I don't want to work that hard.
You'd rather do all the upfront work for somebody else and watch them succeed?
Yeah.
That's good.
I had actually, he was here in Norfolk. I helped him start his business, and I did teach a class at one time at Wayne State, and I had him come to speak. And he had been open maybe 2-3 years. And there was a Q&A after the lecture, after he talked to him. And I know one person asked him, how many hours do you spend in your business a week? And he says, now or at startup? And she says, well, both. He says, at startup, I put in about 120 hours. He says, I'm down to 80.
Yep.
And people don't understand how much work it takes. So,
it takes a lot. It takes a lot to do about anything if you want to do it on your own.
I think
I found that out real fast with the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if you want more businesses.
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah. Whatever you got, whatever you want to tell us.
In Columbus, there's 2 businesses that done. One of them I helped start. The other one was going. I just helped them move into their new location. That business is Industrial Systems and Supply. They sell machine tools to businesses, and actually, again, another husband and wife team. They work fantastic together. So they've done extremely well. DyeStar Industries also in Columbus. They're a fabricator down there. 2 brothers. They left where they were working, and they I helped them start their business, and they've done extremely well also. Actually, they just moved into a new building down in Columbus.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's good to hear. I always love hearing success stories with that kind of stuff.
Yep. And there's many, many more.
Yeah.
Many more.
A cool story that I have for you is that you actually helped my mom when she was first getting a few businesses opened up here in town.
Okay.
She had Holiday Auto Sales going, and you helped her with All-Star Rent-A-Car, I believe, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
But she still remembers you to this day and how knowledgeable and easy to work with you were. Do you still get people that reach out to you years later and thank you?
Sometimes, I guess maybe just a little follow-up on that. Now within the last 2.5 years, I've worked with 5 businesses where I helped them start. 15, 20 years ago, I helped them transition to new ownership now. So that's kind of neat.
That is neat.
That is kind of neat.
Getting to start it and then
keep the business going with new owners.
Yep. I know there's one of them here in Norfolk and several around. So that's kind of neat. I do remember working with your mother though.
Yeah. I brought your name up the other day. She's like, that's who I worked with when we were trying to do this. And it was kind of a complicated process trying to implement that into the business that was already going. So
it was complicated.
Yeah. You were very instrumental in that. So that's well,
tell her hi.
I will. I will do that. I'll try to maybe see if you guys can meet up and maybe go get a coffee or a beer or something sometime.
Sure.
Do you ever just like take a minute of pride and say, man, I've really helped my community grow with the work that I do? Or do you try to stay pretty humble?
I try and stay humble because I've learned if you're not humble, they're going to knock you down.
Life will humble you.
Life will humble you. And so, but honestly, I'm pretty humble about what I've done over the years.
I can tell that just by sitting with you.
Yeah.
I could say I like to say that there's a difference between pride and being proud.
Yep.
Like be proud of what you've done, and you see a business and be like, it's still going. I've done this. Just like you said, that's being proud of having a business transferred to new ownership.
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool thing to do. I helped start this people along the right path. I gave them the right information. They obviously did a great thing. I mean, they had to keep it going.
Yep.
So they did 90% of it or whatever number it is, but be proud that, hey, I got to go to the second generation of this business. And that's pretty sweet.
You're right. I'm really proud of those businesses, those 5 or 6 that I've helped transition into new ownership. So the other thing though, is it means I'm getting old.
Well, it means you're getting old, but it also means you were successful for that amount of time.
Yeah.
So that's how I would look at it. When you said that, that's how I took it, was that you've been that successful this whole time that you've been able to start it and transition it. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
from my interactions with you, you stay very humble. So that's what the interactions that I've had. But you have won some great honors and awards. And with being such a big part in the business community in Northeast Nebraska, what does help keep you grounded? We kind of talked about that, but what helps keep you grounded in that sense? And we can go through your awards here in just a second.
Frankly, I'm a religious man. Deep down, sometimes I don't act like it, but
Okay.
It's like I told a friend of mine. It took me, actually a pastor. It took me 25 years, 30 years to understand that this is the gift God has given me to do this. And it humbles me, and that keeps me humble.
That's good.
You know,
I like that answer.
so I believe God gives us certain gifts, you know, and farming definitely was not a gift, you know. And
But it was something you had to do right at the time because
Yep.
you went back when your dad
Yep.
broke his leg and
Yep.
you stepped up and did the work.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep. And so that's why I try and stay humble.
Yeah. That's good. What's been the most difficult part of your job outside of some of the failures that we've discussed already? What's been the most difficult thing for you? Or
Probably the most difficult ones are people that particularly want to start a business or maybe buy a business. They've got the experience under their belt where they would be good business owners, but they just don't have any capital to inject, you know. And I tell people, if you can come up with 10% and you're in the Northeast Nebraska and you got a good credit score, I says, we can probably make this work.
yeah,
But to some people, good people, they just don't have that 10%,
right.
you know, equity. So those are kind of the hardest ones on me. I mean, I kind of take
When you want to help somebody
I
and you
really
just
want-
flat out can't.
can't.
So this is a question banking off that. Does it get away from being a small business if you try to bring in somebody else for capital? If you can't get it yourself, but you could get 4 or 5 people to raise that capital,
Yeah.
does then it become a non-small business, or would that
No, it's still a small business.
you could still do that as a small business?
Yep.
So if they could raise their own capital, not
Yep.
just themselves, to try to get a couple shareholders or something involved,
Yep.
then that would be
Yeah.
it. Still counts as a small business.
Yeah.
When does it change from a small business? Like what changes to it?
Well, there's a big document out there that has a listing of it's
Is it all based on revenue or?
depends on what industry.
Yeah.
It's either dependent upon revenue or number of employees.
Okay.
But the numbers are huge, though.
Yeah, they're very
huge.
big.
It's a majority of businesses or small businesses,
Like,
right?
yeah. Like I said, couldn't work with Nucor or, you know, or what is it, Cardinal Health or whatever now. You know, but like I said, all the other businesses here in Norfolk, Nebraska can work with them.
That's good. I
I've
like
never
that.
had anybody contact me and I
It
had
was
to
too
tell
far.
them, you're too big. I can't work.
That they wouldn't qualify in that standard.
Exactly. Plus those big corporations, they've got their own
Yeah.
access to financing too. So
Right.
they don't need me.
Right. They got people hired for that
Yep.
on payroll.
Yep.
But let's get back into your honors and awards. You've got the Team Effort Award from the University of Nebraska Institute of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Can you tell me about that one?
I think that's going back a ways.
Didn't give me a year. I just pulled it.
It's going back a ways. I think it was because of my involvement with the regional groups here in Northeast, across the state. We have different regional groups where we get together here in Northeast every other month. And just kind of, I think it's from that aspect.
Okay. Then you also got the Distinguished Service Award and President's Award from the Nebraska Economic Development Corporation.
Yep. I helped them transition through a difficult time when I was president at that time. And I guess that was
That was your reward for helping them through
I
that
was on
time?
the board, you know, and they surprised me. So
That's
yeah.
good.
So I took them through a difficult transition.
What's the dollars and cents award you got from the U.S. Small Business Administration?
Just every year they don't do that anymore, but they would honor, so those of us in the SBDC program or just statewide, whatever, that help with economic development and get loan packaging together, like using SBA.
That's great. And then you got the recognition as Outstanding 100 Rural Development Initiative from the Nebraska Rural Development Commission.
That would be kind of the same thing, the Rural Development Commission, the regional group.
And then Distinguished Service Award in recognition of outstanding contribution to the Nebraska small business community, Nebraska Business Development Center.
Okay, that was every year at that time. I don't know if they do that anymore, but they would recognize somebody within NBDC for outstanding service.
That's great.
Employee of the year, basically.
Kind of like
I
something
guess
like
you could call that, yeah. Yeah.
And then something about 3 awards from the Association of Small Business Development Centers Star
Great
Performer
Star.
Award. Yeah.
Yep.
Any of those kind of big recognitions?
Yeah, they were, let's see, I received those awards in Miami and San Diego, and I forget where the third, the
it's
third
kinda
one
like
I couldn't go.
all the states come together and
Yep, we have an annual conference. The third one, I think, was in Washington. I couldn't go because my wife was undergoing chemo at that point.
Gotcha.
Or something like that.
which one of those hit closest to home for you? Which one of those awards?
Yeah, there isn't one on there that you haven't touched, I don't think.
Well, then we can talk about more.
Okay,
That's all I got.
that's all you got?
That's all I got. So whatever, if you got more, you can.
I've got the one that means the most to me. It was in 2019 from the Nebraska Economic Developers Association. I received the Economic Development Professional of the Year statewide.
Wow.
And that means the most to me because that's really awarded by your peers.
Those are
the
always
state.
the nice ones to
That's
get,
a
right?
true merit based.
Yep.
Not a.
Yep.
Some of them probably get a little bit ceremonial,
Yeah.
whereas this one just like
Well, I tell you what they do is everyone is really based upon what achievements they've done.
okay,
That's
Now,
good.
there's not too many ceremonial awards in NEDA.
gotcha.
Well, there is one. I got that at the last NEDA conference. It's a lifetime membership.
Oh,
There you go.
There you go.
Which means I'm an old guy.
That you're getting ready to get
I'm an
out,
old guy.
leave finally.
But that's the one that's the most meaningful to me over the years.
That's
And it's
awesome.
doubly meaningful because that award was given to me when the conference was in Wayne. So I was on campus at Wayne State. And my wife was able to be there, and my whole family was able to be there to take part in that. And like I said, 9 months later, she was gone, so I'm just extremely thankful.
Still sorry to hear that. Condolences for
Yeah,
that.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's probably a hard process to go through.
Yeah.
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 So before we hit our political questions, is there anything else that you want to?
Political.
Yeah. We ask them to everybody.
Okay.
Everybody that comes on this
Everybody
one
that
gets these
comes on
fun
this
ones.
podcast gets these last few questions.
Okay.
But is there anything else you want to talk about your position or about anything else that you wanted to make the listeners aware of?
Well, I just want to, if I may, thank Wayne State College for
Yeah,
all
go
the
ahead.
years of support. The presidents there have been just fantastic. Dr. Ramus, on down to Dr. Mash, who was there when I started, Dr. Stearns, all the presidents have been very, very supportive. The people that I work with, I'm no longer in Gardner Hall, I moved, but the School of Business is in Gardner Hall, and all the folks in there are just fantastic to work with. And I've always said I can leave this job. It'll be hard to leave the people
Right.
that you work with.
That's
So,
when you know you loved what you were doing, right?
Yep. And so I'm very thankful for Wayne State for sticking with me all these 30 years.
That's great to hear. Do you think you're ever going to actually retire?
Yes.
Do you? And not do anything? You're just going to go out and golf and do the...
I don't golf.
Oh, okay. What's your hobby of choice?
I'm into shooting sports.
There you go. That's awesome to hear.
I used to trap shoot, but I had a mini stroke in 2000.
Oh, okay.
Affected the vision in my left eye a little bit. I was pretty good. I hit 200 straight one time from 16 yards. So,
Oh,
so I was pretty good in my day.
Yeah.
But I take up handguns.
that's good. That's
Shooting
good to hear.
handgun.
We like to hear that on this podcast.
Yep.
How can people get a hold of you?
My office.
I've got it right here. I was
Okay.
going to do it at the end.
Sorry.
So it's LOKUCER1@WSC.edu is his email. And the office number is 402-375-7279. That's how you can get a hold of Loren there in his department. He can always put you in the right direction, like we talked about most of the podcast, and get you where you need to go, right?
And I may work with the client, or I may pass. I shouldn't use the word pass them off, but
That's kind of what it is, though. You're going to pass them off to
my successor.
Give them with the right person. Or,
Yeah. Benjamin Benton, who's succeeding me.
Yeah, since you're kind of on your way out, but not gone yet. But if it's something that may take a while, is that where you're kind of or something that's going to be more in depth?
Yeah.
So before we get in, is there anything else that you want to touch on?
I want to ask a question before you get into that. So there may be people, and we've kind of touched on it a little bit, people that don't understand how to be a business owner, like to actually be the business owner, or they don't have the mental fortitude or whatever. They don't realize what's going on. But they still want to be involved in that aspect. Is this something that more people need to look into, because there's always going to be a need for people like you around? So is there a good path for people to go down this path to help other people? Because it could be their calling to start businesses, but they couldn't be the business owner themselves.
That's a good question.
Kind of like I do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like to go down your path.
Take your path.
Like, because there might be people that have an entrepreneurial mindset, or they want to be involved in small business, getting small businesses running, but they can't, like you said, I don't want to start a business. I don't want to do the time. Like nothing against you, but there's people out there that are that way. So is this the path people should go? Cause I mean, there's a need for it, for people guiding like what you do. And what's the best way for them to go down that path?
I think it helps if they have some business experience, whether they didn't necessarily have to own a business or even manage a business, but work in a business.
At a higher level, probably.
Yeah. Because that helps.
Yeah.
There used to be a SCORE chapter here in Norfolk. I think it's been merged with Columbus, but I would encourage people to get involved with SCORE.
What's that? Service
Corps of Retired Executives.
Okay.
I don't think there's an active chapter here in Norfolk anymore, but they do have, like, you can go online with them, and I don't know how the process works, but you can work with the SCORE consultant that may be in Colorado or New Mexico or whatever. And I always refer people to that, because chances are very good that you're going to be lined up with the SCORE counselor. Let's say you want to start a shoe store. There's a very good chance, because it's a national base, that you get hooked up with somebody that used to own a shoe store. Whereas, not downgrading here in Norfolk, but here, if it was active, you might get somebody that was active and owned a men's clothing store, but not a shoe store, or hardware store. So if they have that, if they have that bent to do that, that would be a suggestion that they become a SCORE counselor. I don't know if that's what you're...
I'm kind of, where that one's a retired executive, but so somebody that maybe's not, that wants to, so like, could you apprenticeship through that basis? I know that's not the term really, but apprentice to get to where you were never an executive and you're not retired or whatever, but like I'm saying, somebody could start up and be like, hey, somebody's going to take me out of my wings and I can help teach.
Okay.
Like I could help teach how people, I could help people through the loan process.
Okay.
Help people through the starting the business process.
There are business coaches out there. They do that for a fee, obviously.
Yeah.
But there are business coaches out there. And I know one particular gentleman who's been a business coach. He got his fingers in other businesses too. Actually, he has a business, but he does some business coaching on the side. And, that's a situation where you can work with the business as long as they want you, work with them for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. What we do, I always kind of call us like we're a MASH unit, where do some triage and
Right.
get them going, and then get them out
Yeah.
the tent door. And
Right.
okay, who's next?
I think what he was getting at is, what if somebody wants to be your position?
Basically get to your position.
Basically get to your position. What's
Like
the
that
path
path.
they should take?
Okay.
What schooling? What?
Well, you need a minimum. You need an undergraduate degree, a bachelor's degree in business, or accounting, public administration, things like that. But definitely a business degree, and it helps if they have some experience. You know, it helps that. I always laugh. You know, I never really owned a business, but I farmed, and I jokingly say I know how to exit a business. You know.
I mean, farming, I mean, I've grown up in the ag world. That's a small business.
Yeah.
It just is.
It is.
It's a small business.
But yeah, you definitely need a degree.
Yep.
Well, let me back up. There's some organizations in the state where you really don't need probably need an associate's
Yeah.
at a minimum. But like for my position, it was required to have a bachelor's degree, preferred a master's degree.
Yeah.
And so,
Which you could work up to that, but to get in the door,
Yeah.
probably going to need an associate's to just start your
well,
career.
you wouldn't
doing
get my job with an associate's degree.
that. No, I'm not talking about your job. I'm
Okay.
talking your profession.
Oh, yeah,
Like-
some of the other
Yeah.
agencies
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not
Not
just
to
your,
where just
yeah.
Yes.
not
Okay.
just
In
their,
all
their
the different
director, but
agencies.
somebody
Yeah.
that can help out do all
Right,
this stuff.
right.
There's like the Center for Rural Affairs. There's a Nebraska Enterprise Fund.
So there's a lot of different
Grow Nebraska.
paths to do that.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I misunderstood you at the
No,
beginning.
it's fine. It was a good conversation. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm still
It
learning.
added to the
That
conversation.
Answer
Yeah.
was still there.
Yeah.
Anything else anybody wants to talk about on your position and business and all that? Cole, you got anything?
No.
Well, you do great things. So
Thank
that's,
you.
I mean, from what I've heard, I mean, talking with my mom, talking with other people, talking with you personally, you and I met before
Yep.
we even scheduled the podcast.
Yep.
I just think you're a great person. I do want to add this before we get into the political questions. You have left such a mark on your son, Will. Him and I have had a few conversations discussing you, and he is always so vibrant and proud to call you his father. I believe he even called you his hero and the person he will always look up to. How does that make you feel?
Humble.
There you go.
Humble.
There you go.
Is that the best job? Being a dad?
Yeah. Yeah. I got two other sons too, so we can't
Yeah.
forget them. But
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Will's the oldest, and
He's just the ones I've had conversations
sure.
with.
sure. Yeah, it's humbling. And I'm proud of all my boys, you know, but Will's always worked hard.
Good. I've seen that in quite a bit. Just the little time I've known him, he's
Yeah.
a pretty hard worker. So,
Yes, he is.
and sounds like he's been a pretty good dad to his
Yep.
children as well. So
I trained him well.
you did. All right, so let's get into the meat of the end of this
Okay.
episode. These political questions, they're not hard. Don't worry. There's nothing too hard.
Oh, they're vicious.
So with it being,
I've seen some of your podcasts.
I know, yeah. So you kind of know which questions are coming then, because we ask them to everybody. With it being an election year, how do you feel about where the state of our country is right now, and do you feel that we are being well represented at the federal and state levels?
Oh, the state of, you mean nationally here?
It's the state of Nebraska. Are we being well represented by our representatives there? And then are we being well represented by our representatives at the federal level?
Now, from the state level, I'll be honest with you, we just changed districts into legislature. So Mike Mosier used to be my representative, and now I don't know. Well, he's termed out. I don't even know who he is. So I was very pleased with Mike Mosier's representation. I was definitely, I don't live here, but Mike Flood, I think, did a fantastic job.
We think he did when he first started. I think there was, we've talked about that on the podcast a lot,
Yeah.
so I don't want to get too far into it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. On a national level, state senators are the senators. I think we're decently represented. I like Deb Fisher, pretty much. Senator Ricketts, I don't know, but as far as I'm concerned, the jury's still out.
Yeah. What about the presidency?
No comment.
Okay. We'll just take that as your answer. Do you feel that the two-party system still works in today's time?
The way it is right now, no. Harken back to the 60s. I remember the politics back then, and we had, you knew what you stood for if you were a Democrat or a Republican back then. Now it's just changed, and it just becomes so acrimonious. I read an article in the Wall Street, I think it was the Wall Street Journal, a number of years ago. I think
step forward just a little bit.
I think they hit it on the head. In the article, they says the problem was today, and even starting in the late 70s, the representatives could leave Washington, D.C. and fly back to their districts and then come back Monday morning. Before we had the plane travel, they stayed in D.C. And he says they had picnics together and they played softball together and they did things. And I'm talking together, Democrats and Republicans.
Well, they still do that.
So
they do.
I look at the other side. I look at the other side of that.
Yeah.
And I know where you're going on it. And I think there's some truth to that, but I think they were held accountable by their constituents. Now they stay in DC and they hang out all the time and they're not held accountable by their constituents.
Okay.
They just do backroom deals.
Okay.
Now, I feel like it's them versus us. And that's the way I feel about how DC's run.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I understand what you're saying. That makes sense too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when it was first started, it was you only went to DC you're only supposed to go to DC for 3 or 4 months, and then you come back and do your normal jobs.
Yeah.
So you weren't a career politician. Was the idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
What he's talking about is kind of a uniparty now. It's just, they might take their stances in public, but there's things going behind the scenes of scratching backs and, it just, like he said, there's them against us type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of sad to see, but hopefully things can be changed.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself going in the future? Are you enjoying where you are? Do you see yourself staying in Northeast Nebraska?
Yeah, I see myself staying in Northeast Nebraska. My grandkids are here, Farthest I have to drive to see them is Lincoln. So I'm going to stay in Northeast Nebraska. What was the other question?
Just, are you enjoying where you are? I
enjoy where I'm at, enjoy, living in Clarkson's good.
You're not going to turn into a snowbird?
No. Well, I tell you, the older I get, I'm starting to say when it's 20 below, I'm starting to say, I know why old people go south for the winter.
Yeah.
So I don't
My
know.
goal in life is to become a snowbird.
I'm probably going to back up on that statement.
Yeah. That's okay. You can always have just a nice little place to stay during the wintertime and come back.
Yeah.
A lot of people do it.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. That's good. I'm glad to hear. And I really appreciate you coming in today.
Well, I was looking forward to it, actually. So when we met back when, I thought, hey, this guy isn't too bad.
I'm not horrible.
So
okay.
I'll hang with you.
He pulled the wool over your eyes on that
one.
one.
No, I think it's a good time. I hope it exceeded your expectations.
Yes. You do a good job. I was comfortable.
Good. We didn't ask too many hard questions.
No.
I tried to do a little research. It was kind of hard to find all the information on you, but I found what I could.
That's fine. That's fine.
But we'll probably wrap it up there unless is there anything else you want to say to the listeners? Or
I just want to maybe briefly with the program we have here, if you need assistance in starting or financing a business, give me a call. If you want to do business with the government, we have Apex. Give me a call and I'll put you in touch with the right people.
And that's 402-375-7279.
That's my personal. That's my personal number.
It is?
Yeah.
That's not your work number?
No, it's that. Oh, I'm sorry. Say that again.
402-375-7279.
That's my personal number.
Oh, it's not. That's your cell phone number? We'll cut it out. We'll cut it out of there.
Okay.
I thought I took off your business card.
Well, you did say it right the first time.
That's the same number.
It's
That's the number he said.
402-379-7279.
375.
That's my personal number.
Okay. Well,
Say that again.
402 375 7279.
That's my office number.
So we're good.
So we're good.
Give me a beer.
we'll get it.
We'll get it. But that's the one you want, right?
7279 or 7972, whatever.
It's 7279, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the right number. We can
That's
leave
the
it in
right-
We'll
there.
say one more time so it's clear.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the right number.
402 375 7279.
Yep.
Okay.
And is there a website that you guys have that will put all that on there?
I just
If somebody wants to just go to the website.
I just tell them and they should Google NBDC
Okay.
Omaha, and
That's your section.
That's our statewide, and actually they'll see all of the services offered on there.
Yeah, and he's on the
that's
Wayne
awesome.
State website too. You can find him on there. If you just Google his name, you can find his Wayne State UNO, all of his contact information. Yeah.
Yeah, the UNO website's got all the information for the NBDC.
Yep.
And so that's even a better thing than just calling with no idea, because then you can have an idea what if you're looking for something, just go to the website and then it'll push you to where you need to go.
I got to add one thing. There's no free money.
This is 100% true.
Right.
Yep.
No free money.
Very much. Somebody's paying for it.
Right.
Yep.
Somebody's paying for it somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll probably wrap it up there.
All right. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Appreciate
No
it. Thank
problem.
you for coming on.
Thanks to my co-host Vance Neidig and producer Cole Peterson. Without them, the show would not be what it is. Huge thanks to Loren Kucera for being here. We really appreciate you making the time today.
No problem. Thank you.
Great. Keep on the look for more great episodes. We'll see you guys next week.